All right, here we go. Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. I hope all of you are at least trying to have a good night because this game, it was a disaster, and it was a really tough watch. But during our watch party on YouTube, greatly appreciate all the interaction, and then it was a blast hanging out with everybody. But we didn't have a lot to talk about. We didn't have a lot to break down because the Niners go down in this game by a final score of 17-0, shut out by the Houston Texans. And Trey Lance was expected to play at most the first half. We got to see him for a couple of series, about a quarter and a half in total, and he wasn't able to do much in this game. The 49ers rushing defense got gashed. The Houston Texans able to compile more than 150 yards on the ground, and really the only bright spot from what I saw from my seat, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu rushing the passer along this 49ers defensive line that I expect to be one of the best units in the National Football League. But I do want to begin our postgame show with the biggest topic, the biggest storyline coming away from this game, because from this preseason game to September 11th, which is week 1 on the road against the Chicago Bears, there are 17 off days, and we were hoping that the Niners were going to be able to inject some level of confidence in us, that Trey Lance was going to be ready to go. Honestly, I wasn't really impressed with what Trey Lance was able to do getting the start tonight in his first bulk of action since going back to week 17 against the same team in the Houston Texans. So I have a couple of notes that I want to go through with Trey Lance. There was certainly some good and bad from that opening series. He threw an absolute dart on a play action on the move to his right to Kyle Juszczyk, and that goes to show you the athleticism that he certainly possesses. But with that athleticism, there's this waning inconsistency and certainly an up and down aspect to what Trey Lance brings to you at that quarterback spot. And I think a lot of that comes down to the inexperience level. There was another play on that opening drive where he made a defender miss, but then threw it in the ground on the move to Brandon Ayuk. Then on a 3rd and long, he threw this deep ball to Deebo Samuel. And I had a feeling that Kyle Shanahan was going to call a deep shot. The ball was just a little bit too short, but you can make the argument pass interference could have been called on Deebo. I'm just waiting for Deebo on a vertical route to actually beat a defender and display what he did last year and why the Niners decided to make him one of the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. I still think Deebo is trying to get in some level of shape. So that throw to Deebo is just a tad short, but it was at least on the mark. The second series, Trey Lance had this throw where he missed George Kittle on a short out on a 2nd and long after he took a sack. We'll get to the sacks and the offensive line. I wanted to see one more series from Trey Lance, and I think Kyle Shanahan wanted to see Trey Lance for one more series. But late in the game on Amazon, as Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit made their debut in the broadcast booth, Kyle Shanahan admitted that this offensive line was absolutely trash. So while Trey Lance didn't do anything to really move the needle or inject confidence in the fan base or do anything to really wow you, you also have to consider the fact that this offensive line was basically trotting out their second unit. They didn't have Mike McGlinchey. They didn't have Trent Williams. And the offensive line in general was disastrous, both in the pass game as well as in the ground game. Anytime that Trey Sermon or Jeff Wilson seemingly got a handoff, there were defenders meeting them right in their face as soon as they got their hands on the pigskin. And every time Trey Lance, at the top of his drop back, went to set his feet and climb the pocket, there were defenders around him. So it's really hard to gauge how well or how poorly Trey Lance played, considering this offensive line just continuing to be a huge question mark and just playing absolutely awful football out there tonight. And really the biggest takeaway, on top of Trey Lance not doing much in terms of moving the football downfield, you saw a couple of moments where this offense had some momentum. This offensive line, even with the regular players playing outside of Trent Williams, Aaron Banks at left guard, Jake Brendel at center, Spencer Burford at right guard, and Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. If this offensive line implodes, this entire season for San Francisco could also implode. So that right there, certainly something to monitor as we progress forward to the start of the regular season. Do want to ask you this question, and I want to hear from you in the comment section because I greatly appreciate your football acumen as a very smart fan base of the San Francisco 49ers. Your level of confidence in the Niners going into the season opener against the Chicago Bears. Let me know on a scale of 1 to 100. 1, not confident at all. 100, very, very confident. Before we continue to get to my takeaways from this game, some injury news that I think is of the utmost importance to talk about during our postgame show. In the pregame, John Lynch was doing an interview, and he said that most likely Jimmie Ward is going to go on IR. This is significant for a couple of reasons. One, what it means is that if Jimmie Ward does go on IR, he's out at least the first 4 weeks of the season. And the first 4 games for San Francisco, there are some tricky ones on that schedule. You open up the season against the Chicago Bears. Week 2, you're against the Seattle Seahawks. Week 3, against the Denver Broncos, on the road against a nemesis and Russell Wilson on Sunday Night Football, and then Week 4 against the Los Angeles Rams. And Jimmie Ward is a captain of this defense. He's one of the best safeties in the National Football League. If you're without him for a long, extended period of time, that's going to be a concern. And initially, when he suffered that hamstring injury in practice, coming off the Packers preseason game, the Niners had said, we expect him to miss the opening week of the season, maybe 2 weeks, but this has become an organization that's hard to trust with injuries, and now it looks as though Jimmie Ward, according to John Lynch, could miss the first month of the season, and that's a big blow, certainly, for this defense. Some other quick takeaways that I certainly have is you take a look at the team-by-team comparison. You can read this if you want. Total passing yards or total yards in general, Niners did win that battle 308 to 238, but they couldn't capitalize on some critical situations. What I'm looking at here, the rush defense was just abysmal for San Francisco, even in a preseason game. 156 rushing yards for the Houston Texans, just 51 for the Niners. That tells a couple of different stories. Niners rush defense was not good, but also the Niners run game, which is the staple of this offense, was also porous. And then 6 of 15 on third downs and 11 penalties for the Niners, which compiled to 104 yards. I also thought that Trey Sermon at moments did run with some authority. He fell forward. It's about time that we saw some level of aggressiveness from the third-round pick from last year, but honestly, I wasn't really impressed with Trey Sermon all that much because he still was indecisive and trying to find the hole and hit the hole, and then he lacked that explosion trying to get out to the perimeter. He finishes the night 8 carries for 20 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a long of 12. Which player among all players on the Niners actually won a roster spot tonight? I want you to think about this and then give me a name in the comment section. I'm going Malik Turner. You let me know in the comment section right now. McCrary Ball also can be in that conversation as well. With football season here, it is time to lay down the money, be bold about it, and start making some bets. Future bets in terms of the NFC West, game-by-game bets. And you can do that with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. All year, they're offering a 125% deposit bonus for first-time signups. All you got to do, it's very simple. Head to chatsports.com/49bet and enter the promo code Niners125. What that means is you put in $100, you get an additional $125 back upon signup. All you have to do, chatsports.com/49bet, enter that promo code Niners125. Right now, Los Angeles Rams are the favorites to win this division. 49ers in second place. Future bets on BetUS are also very good. And then you take a look at some of these week 1 odds that we're about to show you. There's no question that the 49ers are the better team than the Chicago Bears. I think they'll have a better showing than they had against the Houston Texans, and the odds makers agree. Week 1 odds, 49ers 7.5-point favorites. The over-under, extremely low as of now, set at 42. Just some more notes that I want to get to before we hop on out of here for our post-game show. Appreciate all of you for making the 49ers Report a part of your day or night. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button. Jordan Mason, you compare him to Trey Sermon. He just looks to have it. Every time he touches the ball, it seems as though it goes for a positive gain. McCrary Ball was all over the place with what he was able to do on the defensive side of the football. Charles Omenihu and Samson Ebukam, two critical pieces for this 49ers defensive line. They're going to be huge depth pieces for this team. And what DeMeco Ryans likes to do with this defensive system, rotate all of your defensive linemen to keep everybody fresh throughout the rigors of now a 17-game schedule. And Charles Omenihu, Samson Ebukam will certainly be big factors as part of that. And they are very high capable and high quality backup pass rushers for this team. They were able to display that tonight throughout the preseason, but also going back to last year as well. Lastly, Brock Purdy against Nate Sudfeld, a conversation and a debate that a lot of people are having among this Niners fan base. Who should be quarterback 2? And a big reason we're talking about this is because if Brock Purdy is waived, if he's cut and he hits waiver, I think there's another team out there that is going to want to bring Brock Purdy in with some of the potential that he was able to show, and the 49ers wouldn't be able to bring him back on the practice squad if they outright release him, because I think he's going to get claimed. Now, you look at the numbers that both of them put up. Nate Sudfeld tonight, 5 of 10, 49 yards, threw a bad interception. His quarterback rating, 24.5. What really is the separation between Sudfeld and Brock Purdy? Sudfeld is 6'6". He never throws a wobbly ball. It's always a spiral, but he's checked down Charlie. He rarely makes throws downfield. As compared to Brock Purdy, I like how he takes shots downfield. I like his aggressiveness, and his athleticism is a lot better than Nate Sudfeld. The only thing with Brock Purdy, and this is something that a lot of people know, if you watched him a lot at Iowa State, it's kind of the Jimmy Garoppolo type of gene. He can look really good. He can help the offense matriculate down the field. He can make a couple of throws downfield and take chances on some 50-50 balls that you're like, okay, Brock Purdy, you fit that in a tight window, that's great. But then at the same time, he throws the interception that he did tonight where it was just a predetermined read. Takes the snap, looks right, linebacker knew what the read was, and he faked left from the defensive side, and then Purdy reverted his eyes to the center of the field, threw the ball into double coverage. And you're like, Brock, you just made a couple of nice throws. You're moving down the field, and then you throw an ill-advised interception like that. There's really no excuse for it, and I know that Kyle Shanahan will grit his teeth when he watches back the film and he sees the lack of diagnosing skills. He sees the predetermined decision that Brock Purdy had there. Now, the good for Brock Purdy, you drafted him in the 7th round. Final pick of the NFL draft. You're not expecting much from Brock Purdy to really be an impact player for this team. But if he could be a solid backup, which I think he can be, then he has to eliminate those types of mistakes from his game. And we'll see what happens with Brock Purdy and Nate Sudfeld. I think Sudfeld's going to be the quarterback number 2. But does Purdy get let go? Do the Niners hold on to 3 quarterbacks on this 53-man? That is going to be a debate and a conversation that this Niners coaching staff and the front office has going into roster cutdown day on Tuesday. Lastly, last question, during our postgame show. Among all players, we asked you for a winner tonight. Which player lost a roster spot tonight? Give me a name in the comment section. Let me know down below. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We were live for several hours for our watch party as we're doing this live. We go live on Callin' and YouTube for a postgame show. And tomorrow, moving forward, every single day, you can count on us for the best, most interactive, informative, entertaining Niners news, rumors, analysis, and the best audience interaction out there. So help us get to 62,000 subs by hitting that red sub button down below or plug in that link, youtube.com/49erstv.